Hey, buddy, welcome to Teaching to the Test Pattern. I'm Tom White, your host, and again today I'm talking with Faraz Ahmed and Phillip Green from Amitrace here in Atlanta. Today we're going to talk about how to get started, what a $500 budget could do for you as you start to unravel this NDI journey. We're going to tell you how you can do some stuff for free. Great conversation with these guys. I cut it up into some smaller shows just because I wanted you to be able to listen to an episode, digest it a little bit. I know that most of my colleagues, their commute is 15 to 20 minutes. So if you can get it in on the way to work and then another one on the way home, maybe you'll be able to absorb more of it. If it's a couple hours long, which this conversation was about 90 minutes all told, I don't know that it would be something as impactful. So on this one, again, we're talking about how to get started, how to have the conversation with your IT people, and where you can get going with NDI. So I hope you enjoy it, and here's some more of my conversation with Faraz Ahmed and Phillip Green from Amitrace.
This is Teaching to the Test Pattern.
Let's talk about how to get started. So I've got, let's say, $1,000. Mm-hmm. What do I do? How do I get going? That's not even $1,000. Let's say $500. How do I get started in the NDI space?
So the easiest way is, let's see if NDI is working on your network. Mm-hmm. Let's see, do we need to talk to IT, or is it already going? A lot of times it's just going. We just start using it. So the easiest way to do that, of course, would be, let's say you want to be able to view the output of one computer on another computer, mm-hmm. right? That's the same deal. So you can use the NDI tool pack. You download that, and you can use Scan Converter and Studio Monitor to essentially send the desktop of one screen to another screen. And so that tells you that NDI is working. The same thing can happen with the VLC player, or it can happen with the Adobe Premiere, or the Adobe plugin, I should say, rather than Premiere.
It also has the test pattern specifically for that reason. And these applications can be installed on a thumb drive. Doesn't even have to be installed on the PC itself. You can run the application off the thumb drive.
So once you see that working, we've got NDI going on. So you can do the simple stuff like we talked about of sharing Premiere throughout your classroom and things like that. And then if you want to do some live production, if you already have a switcher of sorts, a computer-based switcher, you probably have NDI functionality built in. Whether, of course, that's a TriCast or a Wirecast or the ESC stuff, or any of that stuff all supports NDI natively in there. So now you can bring your computer output directly in there. You can bring your Premiere output directly in there. You can do graphics in After Effects and bring that in there. Or you could look at getting a converter, right? You want to bring in a remote camera from somewhere. You can get a NewTek Spark converter or a Bird Dog. There's a bunch out there at that price point. So that will allow you to remotely bring in a camera into your switcher now. And so that can go a very, very long way of starting to just dip your toe in NDI and kind of go back and forth of seeing what that output looks like.
Your NDI camera on your phone.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people using it in real productions. Mm-hmm. They just break their phone out and they start walking around the studio.
Yeah, I saw one not long ago where the teacher just sent a kid out pre-show and they just roamed the halls. And it was the teacher testing to see if it would actually work in an environment where it didn't matter if it didn't work because it was before the show was actually going to go live. So buy a converter.
But even more simple than that, right? Let's say my switcher doesn't support NDI. And I don't even have $500. I have the $20 or $30 that's for the NDI camera. That's still a workflow there, right? Because you can take the NDI camera and then you can view it on your laptop in Studio Monitor. So that right now you can basically, have that camera signal going, and that camera could be anywhere in your campus. And so from your laptop, you can then just have an HDMI cord going to your switcher, and now you're using NDI and leveraging it for $20 or $30 essentially. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot that you can do with it without investing a significant amount of money.
And the next question is, well, I got to get a new camera.
No, absolutely not. No, there's a wealth of converters out there. Folks that are doing PTZ cameras, because a majority of the PTZ cameras out there support NDI. But folks that are using traditional field cameras, studio cameras, they're using converters to bring them in because they see the value in NDI.
And when we say cameras, my favorite camera is the little Canon Vixius. Mm-hmm. That works too. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I want to make clear is whatever camera you have, If it has HDMI or SDI out, you can buy a converter that will make that happen.
Yeah, and most likely, if you're already in the path of trying to get your equipment upgraded, you've probably already bought a component or a composite converter to HDMI. So you probably already gotten an HDMI signal at this point.
And for the teacher who is truly going rogue, I'm going to make an assumption they already have a camera. They can go get OBS or one of those vMix and one of those free to super inexpensive software switching programs, and they can really do a jam up production pretty simply. I was talking with one of my kids the other day, and we were talking about they were trying to wrap their head around how they could use NDI. And I said, so they were like, well, what about graphics? I said, well, PowerPoint or Google Slides, and you key it and you go from there. And tons and tons of ways to actually use it.
Yeah, ProPresenter actually outputs NDI as well. So we use that in the education market as well as the house of worship market, because how many churches do you know already have ProPresenter, and they're already doing switching as well, and so and they're probably running cables to get that presentation into their TriCaster or whatever. NDI is available on that output. So
another awesome graphics tool is Keynote. Keynote does a great job and can even export alpha in some ways through files and stuff. University of Georgia, the greatest school of journalism, does a lot of the graphics through Keynote. It's a great little tool because it can handle motion video really well.
So where can people go find out more about NDI specifically?
So honestly, at newtech.com, you can find out a lot. There's a lot of resources and tools there, as well as at our website, amitrace.com. We have some tools and resources. Based on this conversation, I think a great page on our website will be how to get started with NDI in the most simple ways. So that's something we'll work on. Maybe we'll get it out here by the time of the webcast, or the podcast, I should say, because we have the tools. We just haven't put them together. The real trick, and this is for everyone listening out there, is please try the simplest thing possible with NDI and get it going on your network, your home, wherever you want to. And once you use it once and see the power of it and see it using it, you're going to be hooked. Every single time I've tried to talk to people about it, it sounds interesting, but they don't mess with it too much. Once you see it working, it just kind of blows your mind every single time.
And when you see it working and you know that you get that confidence, that's where the creativity comes in, and that's where you start to go, wait, I can do that. And for a teacher, that's key, that confidence of that first test. And I'm going to be blunt, there are going to be times it fails, but there are times where your SDI cable fails as well. And I don't want teachers to shy away going, well, it's network, and network always burns me. So what else? What did we miss? Is there something that I missed that we need to tell people?
Yeah, so there's one thing I wanted to bring up. A lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't work all the time or whatever. I'm like, you realize you have one of the most powerful computers in the world in your pocket, and you're upset when it doesn't send a text, right? It's like technology can fail on you, but you got to give it that flexibility, because think about what you're doing. You are moving video and audio across miles, potentially, and you're going to be upset if you lost a frame or two, so just give it a little bit of leniency, I think, is one of the biggest keys there. It's really driven by your network. Something I've noticed a lot as well is a lot of educators will possibly bring in their own switches, right? But they're not paying attention to what switch they buy. So I've found 100 meg switches inside of control rooms and studios, and they're like, well, I'm plugged it in and I'm not getting, it's dropping out. And then the source of it is most likely that little itty bitty 4-port switch was a 100 meg switch and not a 1 gig switch, right? So that's one thing. And then wireless versus wired. One of the biggest things that we find out is schools and educations, they'll actually segregate those two networks. So the Wi-Fi will not talk to the landline network. And that is a big issue. So that's just conversation with, the tech team, and there might be a hidden network that you can get that device on so that it can actually talk to the landline, the wired network.
So to kind of follow up on that, the same thoughts. If you're really into this stuff and just want to explore, sometimes it's easier to explore at home. Because at your home network, this is going to work flawlessly. I can pretty much guarantee it. It just will. It's just not very complex. No one's put any hard rules on it. It's just going to work flawlessly. And once you start playing around with it, you'll get a little bit more of a comfort level at the school seeing what you're trying to do. The next thing is don't try to work against your IT team. That's my personal opinion, obviously. You're never going to win.
You need them.
Yeah, to do NDI, you're going to need them, so you got to get their buy-in or your principals or someone's. But if you're going to try to work against them, instead of getting on the same side, you're always going to lose on that one.
Yeah,
it is their highway.
That is one of the things that I tell my students and I tell colleagues, that there are two people that you always take care of: your IT person and your janitor. And with the IT people, it's literally just, don't try to have the conversation without them is my best advice on this side of the table. Is go to them immediately. Go, hey, look, I'm thinking about doing this. Here's what it is. Here's why I'm excited about it. And then have that conversation from there. And I'm going to be very general here and may step on a couple of toes. Typically, my experience has been that an IT person's answer first time is no. And I understand that. I understand the putting up the wall of defense to make sure that you just have to filter. But if you sit down with them and show and explain, then it definitely does make a difference long term in terms of getting what you need. I'm super blessed where I am. These guys I call all the time. I go, hey, I messed something up, and they fix it. Or, I call on a Saturday and go, hey, network's down in the gym, and they take care of me. Sorry, I looked down.
And I was going to say, just kind of remember that vision at the end. The goal is that the broadcast is not limited to what I can do in this classroom. I am trying to create a network, a channel, a campus-wide thing where anything that happens in the school can be shared with anyone in the school. We're reporting on the entire campus rather than just one room.
I'll give you an easy sell. I'm sure the principal from time to time would love to talk on your show, but does not want to come down to your classroom. Put a PTZ in his room, and then anytime he sees that red light on, he knows he's live. Done. That's that's audio, video, control, tally, all over that one cable.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's not going away. So as you heard Phillip say there, a lot of stuff can happen with NDI over one Ethernet cable. You can do a lot of really cool stuff, graphics, video, communications, all of that. And NDI is not going to go anywhere. In our next episode, we're going to talk a little more about that. So thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. It's brought to you again by schoolvideonews.com, where you can find thousands and thousands of articles all about teaching video production in the high school, actually in all levels, high school, middle school, elementary, and post-secondary. There's school profiles. There's a ton of content there that you can go and enrich your classroom with right now. So thanks to School Video News for their sponsorship, and thank you for listening. And as always, go make some awesome today.
Teaching to the test pattern.